In today's video, I'm gonna cover the best Deathblade damage build for PvE in Lost Ark 2022. This Deathblade build is very versatile and it will make your Deathblade have a really easy time in activities such as Abyssal Dungeon, Guardian Raids, Chaos Dungeon, Boss Rush, Cube, and everything else in the game right now, except for PvP. But if you are interested in other Lost Ark videos, such as a Deathblade build for PvP, PvE, or leveling, then make sure you check out my channel for those videos. In this guide though, I will go through the skills, skill points, runes, engravings, how to play it, and much more. So with all that said, let's get started with the engravings for the best Deathblade damage PvE build, since that will define the build. So this build will be focused around Deathblade's class-specific engraving, Surge. If you're interested in a Deathblade remaining energy build, I would recommend checking my other Deathblade starter PvE build, since that one is covering remaining energy. Both builds are really good, but Surge do have a higher DPS potential, but it is a little bit harder to execute, I would say. So let's take a look at the Surge engraving and go through how it works. So Surge is casted in the max level, meaning 3 death orbs, no matter how many death orbs you have. When you enter death trance, any skills other than basic attacks and awakening skill hits will give you a stack of Surge enhancement, and is stacked every 0.4 seconds, stacking up to 20 max stacks. This effect causes Deathblade Surge damage plus 7.5%. When Death Trance ends, you will gain Death Orb meter for each Surge enhancement, being 5% per stack. So if you have 20 stacks, you will get 3 Death Orbs back. At Surge engraving level 2 and level 3, it adds 0.5 and 1% attack power as well. So all you really need is to get Surge to level 1 to get the main effect. Until you hit the endgame in tier 3, that should be all you should be focusing on. The engraving you should be getting to level 3 though is Master of Ambushe. It gives you 25% back attack damage at level 3, which is just insane. Since almost all of Deathblade's skills are back attacks, it synergizes perfectly. These two are the ones that you really want to focus on when it comes to engravings. The rest are a bit more fillers this early on, until you hit the real endgame at tier 3, when you can get more engravings and try to min-max the build more. Another engraving that is good is Adrenaline, since it works quite similar to Surge in that sense that it gives you attack power stacks for skill usage stacking up to 6 times, and on top of that, it also gives you a flat crit rate on 6 stacks, which is something we also want as well, since getting crits on your Surge will increase the damage by a lot. Another one worth mentioning that is not mandatory, but it's actually really cheap to buy right now on the market is Sight Focus. If you ever seen someone in your party typing exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, and you wonder what's wrong with them, they're actually just using Sight Focus engraving. So when you type something with exclamation mark in normal chat, you activate the engraving for 6 seconds, giving you 28% damage on the next offensive skill. Use that right before Surge for a fat damage increase. You also got Supercharged, which is okay, but I think the previous ones are way better and it should not be a high priority for this build. But it does make your charging skills like Blitz Rush, Void Strike, and Soul Absorber charge up way faster and deal more damage. Then we have some engravings that are more for the endgame, since they require you to get them to level 3, since it's not smart at all to use them at level 1 or level 2, since they have one positive and one negative effect. While the positive effect increases each level, the negative one is the same at all 3 levels. So we have Grudge that gives you 20% damage to bosses, but you also take 20% more damage. Keen Blunt Weapon that gives you 50% crit damage, but you have a 10% chance to deal minus 20 damage. I'm not 100% sure about the 10% chance, but that is what I heard, and when I tested, 10% seemed to be the case. But for that to be worth, you should have a high crit chance. Then lastly, Cursed Doll that gives you 16% attack power with minus 25% healing. So to sum up the best Deathblade engravings for PvE in priority order, it would look something like this. To be fair though, you should aim to get level 1 Surge and then Ambushe level 3. Possibly add in Adrenaline as a filler. I think it's also worth to note that there are other engravings that works decently as well, and they give you almost as much damage as some of these, so you can of course go with those as well. But that covers the best Deathblade's engraving for PvE in terms of damage. So since you now know about the engravings and especially the search engraving that does define this build, we're gonna cover the skills and the skill points. Keep in mind, I might have more skill points than you, but don't worry, I will go through while covering the skills what skills you don't have to max out. There's also a lot of variations for skills when it comes to Deathblade search builds, since Deathblade have a lot of good skills that work well for this. And most of the damage is coming from our skill called search, and all we need to mainly do is to create stacks with our skills. So make sure you try out some different skill to see what you prefer the most. I will go through what I've been using the most, and I will also add in a few ones that I think are worth to use for this as well. So starting with the two skills you're gonna prioritize the most to build your stacks, we got Wind Cut that creates a gust of blades that spins around the area, dragging enemies in while hitting them multiple times. One usage of Wind Cut will give you a total of 4 stacks for search. For Wind Cut, we go Quick Prep for shorter cooldown and Sustain Enhancement for a longer duration. Next up, we got another cutter, being Spincutter. We go Open Weakness for the damage debuff, Quick Prep for reduced cooldown, and Triple Spin for 1 extra spin. You want to make sure you use this one on cooldown for the damage debuff for your team, and it's also great to get 3 stacks with Triple Spin. However, if you have lower than 280 points, only spec 7 points into this one. Then we have Void Strike, which is one of your best skills to gain Death Orbs with, and also amazing to get Surge stacks with. One charge up Void Strike will grant you 8 Surge stacks, and the amazing thing with it is that you can literally just press it once in case you don't have time for a full charge attack, and it will still give you 6 Surge stacks as long as somebody's standing in the pile. So I'm going Orb Control to gain Death Orbs faster, Void Zone to create this pile on the ground, making us get a lot more stacks, and Dark Dimension that makes it a shard up skill for even more stacks. Then we have Soul Absorber, which is another amazing shard up skill for damage and Death Orb generation. Pretty straightforward skill, you shard it up and you hit twice with big damage, giving you 2 stacks. We use Swift Finger for attack speed for faster skill usage, then we go Fist of Darkness for more damage, and then Halve for even more damage. Worth to note, if you're playing a boss that requires a lot of stagger, I would swap Swift Fingers for Concussion to make your stagger go from mid to high. Next up is Blitz Rush, that is a charge up skill for high damage with good range. I'm going Vital Point Hit for crit, Charge Enhancement for more damage per charge up, and Shadow Rush for even more damage. This is one of the skills you could swap out if you want to try some other additional skills that I will mention later. Then we have Maelstrom, which is a Death Orb meter buff, so make sure you use this in combination with Soul Absorber and Void Strike when you're outside of Death Trance to get your Death Orbs back as soon as possible. I'm going Orb Control for the Orb meter buff and Dark Order for movement and attack speed buff for myself and party. Then we have Earth Cleaver, which is our counter skill. Whenever the boss turns blue, hit him in the face with this to put him to bed. I'm using Push with this one to get more range, but also for it to give you 2 stacks, since the Push gives you 1 stack as well. If you have additional points, you could spec into Weak Point Detection for more damage to push immune foes. Then lastly, we have Dark Axle, which is an amazing mobility skill that you can pair with your dash to either get out of sticky situations or use it to jump over the boss to make sure you can do back attacks. This skill only gives us 1 stack, but it's such an amazing mobility tool to make sure you always get a back attack off with Surge. We go Swift Fingers for the faster skill usage, Tenacity for push immunity, and High Axle for longer range that also allow us to jump over bosses. So those are the skills I've been using the most with this Surge build, and I think it works great. However, there are 3 other skills you could use as well that I think would work great for Deathblade Search build, especially if you have a hard time to get the stacks up fast enough. You could swap Blitz Rush for one of these. Moonlight Sonic, which is a great damage skill for AoE attack, it gives you 3 total stacks. I go Fist of Darkness for damage, Sustain Enhancement that turns it into a charge skill for more damage, and Shade Sonic for even more damage. Next one is Death Sentence, which is a really quick AoE skill to use that gives you 5 stacks because of the Cold Zone pile it leaves on the ground. So I go Quick Prep for lower cooldown, Cold Zone for the pile on the ground for more stacks, and Critical Blow for faster usage. Then lastly we have Blade Dance, which is a really cool hold skill. It gives you a total of 6 stacks on full use. I go Fist of Darkness for more damage, Quick Prep for shorter cooldown, and Mutilate that increases the duration and the damage. But those are all the skills I use and the ones I do recommend. There are of course more, but I don't want to go through every single Deathblade skill. Just make sure you get skills that can generate Death Orbs quick, and also multi-hit skills that gives you a lot of stacks for the search enhancement. With that said though, let's go through the skill runes really quick here. I wouldn't say this is super important until tier 3, but it surely can help. Just try to work with what you have though. So starting with Wind Cut and Spincutter, which are the skills you're gonna be spamming the most. So you wanna have something like Rage or Quick Recharge to make use of that. On your Death Orb generators such as Soul Absorber and Void Strike, you wanna have Wealth to help with the orb gain. Earth Cleaver, we go with Overwhelm for the stagger damage that synergizes extremely well with the skill. Blitz Rush, I use Gale Wind for faster usage on the skill since it's really slow to charge it up. Then on Dark Axle, I use Protection for survivability. You can also use Iron Wall for less damage taken, but I do think Protection is better for that bonus shield. Then lastly, Maelstrom, I use Bleed, which I don't think is super optimal, but I'm not really sure what to run here. But that should give you a really good idea on the runes. Next up, we got the combat stats and its priority. So Specialization and Crit is what you want to focus on. Specialization give you more damage to search while also making cooldown reduction from Death Trance better. And it also increases the Death Orb meter gain from skill. So as you can hear that, it basically gives everything we want. So make sure you prioritize Specialization over anything else. Then the crit have a higher chance to crit with all the skills, but especially search for that fat damage. If you can't get any of those, I guess Swiftness is alright to get. It will give you movement speed, attack speed, and cooldown reduction. But those are the stats I would look for. When you hit tier 3, you will get introduced to gems. I would not spend too much money on this in tier 2, because in tier 3 you will get new gems. But sure, you can roll a few gems to your liking and also upgrade a few of them, because you will get gems on the way. I think most of my gems are level 3 with a few level 4s. I would focus on getting cooldown first here, then damage on your highest damage skills such as Blitz Rush, Soul Absorber, and Search. On the screen you can see my current gem setup, which is definitely not perfect by any means, but I think it's pretty good. Whenever I reach tier 3 endgame and more people are there, I will be making an updated video including everything such as gems, cards, and skill tripods. As of now though, I don't think it makes sense to cover it. Just try to do your best with what you have. With that said though, you should definitely start right now to farm cards since they are super long progress, so definitely try to look into that as soon as you can. But that should cover everything you need to know in terms of setting up the best Deathblade damage build for PvE. But now you might wonder, how do you actually play it and how does the rotation look like? So let's go through just that. So let's start with the beginning of the fight. So you're gonna have 0 Death Orb and your goal is to hit 3 Death Orbs as soon as possible. To do that really fast, I pop Maelstrom for the orb generation, and if the awakening skill isn't really needed for the fight, I will pop it straight away after Maelstrom is on. The Flash Blink have really good stagger and weak points, so sometimes you do want to save it for just that. Then after that, you want to use Soul Absorber and Void Strike, and depending on your build, that might actually be enough for you to get 3 orbs. If not, just continue to use your skills and prioritize Void Strike and Soul Absorber because they are the best skills you have for Death Orb generation. As soon as you get to 3 Death Orbs, just pop your identity skill. If possible, use Wind Cut right before you pop it. Then you start off with Spincutter, into Blitz Rush, then Wind Cut, Spincutter, Void Strike if available. If not, you use Soul Absorber. Then you should have around 14 stacks and you can search. However, if possible, I would try to get as close as you can to 20 stacks. It really does depend on the situation and your cooldowns. If you have a lot of cooldowns at 14, then just use Search. If you do have a lot of skills ready, like Spin Cut and Wind Cut, then try to get more stacks than 14. Like the higher, the better. But if you feel like you have cooldowns at 14 and you feel like you're not gonna get a good opportunity to hit the boss from the back, then just hit it. Before you search for the fat damage, try to be behind your target and also that Spincutter is applied for the damage increase. So to summarize it a bit, spam Wind Cut and Spincutter as much as you can on cooldown. That is definitely the priority number 1. Then I would prioritize Void Strike, Blitz Rush, and Soul Absorber. Don't use Maelstrom while in Death Trance though. Use Maelstrom right after you use Search in combination with either Soul Absorber or Voice Track if you have less than 20 stacks, to make sure you get back as soon as you can into Death Trance, and then you just repeat the process. But I think that covers everything you need to know about the best damage build for Deathblade, also known as a Search build. If something is unclear or you have any questions, just comment down below and I will make sure to answer you as fast as I can. Otherwise, you can always come to my Twitch stream and ask there for a faster reply, since I do stream Lost Ark every day. With that said though, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did make it this far, please make sure to like, comment and subscribe for that YouTube algorithm so I can make more videos like this. I will catch you guys though on my stream or in the next video.